Okay, so we will go ahead and get started with today's webinar. At the start here, I just wanted to let everyone know that we will be ending the webinar 15 minutes earlier than regularly scheduled. Usually we give a full hour to deliver these webinars, but we do have another program webinar that's scheduled for afterwards, and the same Zoom support technician needs to pop over to another webinar to support. So we'll finish this within the next 45 minutes or so, but that should give us more than enough time for me to go through the content and to address any questions that there might have from the audience. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. Wanted to thank everyone for taking the time to join us. We're here to discuss the Master Management, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship, the MMI program here at Smith School of Business, Queen's University. This is our general information session webinar. I will be hosting solo today. My name is Connor McCann, and I'm the Associate Director of the program. In my role, it's kind of two key focuses, recruitment and admissions being one big part of what I do, and then program delivery. So I get to interact with applicants and candidates when they're considering the program. So as many of you in the virtual audience today, you're probably just at that stage where you're thinking about an application. So this is usually where I start to interact with candidates. I conduct the final interview, so I get to build a rapport with applicants then, and then I'm there to really help guide students throughout the 12-month delivery of the program, and I continue to engage with alumni. So I really follow candidates from their entire academic journey, from applicants to students to alumni, and I get to build really strong relationships in my role, and that's probably the thing that I like the most about it. So that's more than enough about me, because I know you're not here to learn about me, you're here to learn about the MMIE program, so that will be the main focus of our discussion and of the webinar today. So we'll start by jumping right into it, giving an overview of the program itself. There is an exciting update with the MMIE program. It's going to be included in a suite of two programs under the banner of the Innovation Suite, starting with our intake next year. So I will talk a little bit about the Innovation Suite and what that means for MMIE students and MMIE applications. Then we will talk about the application process in detail. Hopefully, by the time we get to that stage, I've convinced some of you to proceed with an application. So I'll just give some more information about what that application process consists of, what's required, and kind of the timelines associated with it. We have a couple of great content webinars coming up scheduled over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So I did want to flag a few of those webinars before we sign off today. And then I'll leave room at the end of the webinar today to address any questions that the virtual audience members might have about any aspect of the MMIE program or anything else that is discussed today. Anyone who registered for today's webinar will receive a video recording emailed to them, usually within a day or so of the webinar itself. So if you're on the call with us now and you're not able to stay right through for the full 45 minutes to the very end, we will ensure that you do receive a video recording emailed to you shortly. I do like these sessions to be as interactive as possible. Normally, I do have a member of our recruitment team who supports these webinars, and they're able to address some questions that might come up in written format over the duration of the webinar. Because it's just me today, we will save all the questions for a verbal response period at the end of today's webinar. But please do type in your questions into the Q&A function within Zoom as you think of them. Sometimes you think of a great question when I'm presenting something, and then when the Q&A portion comes at the end, you might have forgotten about that question. So we can just build a queue of questions within the Q&A function in Zoom, and then I'll be sure to address all those questions or as many of those questions as possible at the end of the webinar. If you're not aware, the Q&A button can be found on the horizontal Zoom window or horizontal Zoom bar that's likely located at the top or bottom of your screen. So if you locate that bar, you might have to click the More option, and you should see a Q&A function. Click the Q&A function. That will launch a separate window that you can use to type your question into. So please do type your question in as you think of them, and I'll do my best to get through all of them during the Q&A at the end of today's webinar. So I think that's it from an administrative stand-up point. So we can go ahead and jump right into the content here. So what we teach in the MMIE program, there's lots of great details on the program website when it comes to the curriculum and all the various courses comprised within that curriculum. And you can read descriptions on all the courses on the website. So a lot of great detail on the website. You can read up more about the faculty that we have teaching on the program as well on the website. But to kind of distill everything that we teach in the program, all the courses, all the content into three salient bullet points, I think these would be those three bullet points. So we teach students how to lead innovation, and whether that is innovation in a corporate sense. So we do have students who come in as intrapreneurs who want to innovate within a pre-existing organizational structure, whether you want to innovate as part of a startup or a new business. And we have students who stream in with either an idea for a business that they want to turn into an actual business, or maybe they come in with a business that they've already established and they want to leverage the program as more of an incubator to kind of bring that business to the next level, to accelerate that business and to grow that business. We also have students who come in on the social innovation side. So they might have an area that they're passionate about, a topic that they're passionate about, and they want to drive positive social innovation around that area of the economy or the market. So the MMI program at a high level teaches students to lead innovation across all of those contexts. But part of innovation is not just about having a great idea. It's about quantifying and qualifying that that idea is one worth pursuing. And that's something else that we teach within the program. Earlier on, within the delivery of the curriculum, we have a market research analysis course that's all about providing students with a set of quantitative and qualitative skills to be able to validate whether an idea they have for an innovation, and an innovation in any context, is one worth pursuing, whether there is a viable opportunity there. So that's another key facet of the program. Then once students have identified an opportunity that's worth pursuing, they have the research to back it up, then we provide them with the full skill set of how to actually go from idea to execution, how to build out the business, how to build out the innovation, and do so in a very strategic, very structured, very thoughtful way that will put that innovation in the best position to succeed. So at a high level, that's really what we teach within the program, to go from idea to execution, to validate ideas that come, and then to be able to lead either within an organizational setting or to be able to lead as an entrepreneur, as a small startup founding team. So with that in mind, who are we looking for in the MMI program? It's tough to put MMI students in buckets, and I would say that innovators and entrepreneurs don't necessarily like to be categorized. But it is helpful to see the types of students, the archetypes that we do have coming into the program, or that have come into the program and been successful over the last 10 years, ever since we've been delivering the program here from Smith. So we do have students who come in as pure entrepreneurs. And again, that could be students who want to incubate, go from an idea to a viable business plan or an actual business. Students who want to accelerate their business, so they might have something started already and they want to bring it to the next level. We have people on the corporate innovation side, as we mentioned, and the corporate innovators really come from very broadly across the economy. We have people who come from the financial services sector, the consulting sector, energy, the public sector. So there's always great representation in the industries that our students come to the program from on the corporate innovation side. Social innovators as well. So students have something that they're passionate about, an area that they want to improve socially, and the program can certainly provide them with the structure and the resources and the skill set to be able to enact positive societal change. If you're in the audience now and you kind of like this idea of innovation, you like the idea of gaining access to a network, of kind of taking a professional master's program that is very practical in its delivery, but you feel like you don't fall in any one of those three previous categories, that's fine. We do have students who come in who are, motivated to innovate. They're passionate people. They just haven't really found their thing yet, that one idea. And the program can really help those students explore their own interests and hopefully identify an actual initiative, an innovative project that they want to work on. So if you come into the program without that one thing that you're working towards, part of the program structure is to work with those types of students to help them find that one project or that one innovation that they want to chase down and pursue through the program. So that's why we create this fourth category of adventurers, people who come in without a very clear idea of where they want to go, and the program and the way it's structured can help point them in the right direction. Key success drivers for the MMI program. The first one I think is probably obvious based on the previous slide, is that the program is very customizable. So because the program is leveraged in different ways to different ends by different types of people and different types of students with different backgrounds, the program has to have the flexibility to be able to cater to the needs of each individual student. And that's where the customization comes in. So a lot of the work that students do across the various courses would be tied to projects that they can decide for themselves what the topic of that project is. So students might decide to focus on their own corporate innovation or their own startup or their own social innovation. And we can help guide students towards the right courses, other additional resources that we have affiliated with the program to make sure that they are able to really unlock the value of the program in a way that's specific to their own journey and to their own value proposal for the program itself. So it's very customizable in that sense. As far as where this program sits, I would say that it's much more similar to a traditional MBA than it would be to a Master of Research or a PhD program. So the program is really designed to sit at the intersection of academic thought leadership and practical skill development. So we have a lot of great researchers and practical leaders who teach the courses within the program, but they always do so in a very practical way. So it's about pulling insights from research, but delivering those insights to students in a model or a framework or a theory or a skill set in a way that they can then apply it to real world business cases. So we don't get too lost in the research, we don't get too lost in the theory. It's about pulling insights from theory and being able to apply those to real business examples. So that's really what the program is all about with regards to really the academic strategy behind it. We do have a strong coaching model wrapped around the MMI program because the class size is usually relatively small, anywhere between 75, 80, maybe upwards of 100 students. There is such a great student to faculty ratio that students are really able to get the individual attention that they need from their faculty members. And we kind of create a relationship between student and faculty where the faculty becomes more of a mentor, more of a coach. So faculty are very generous with their time, as they're always happy to interact with students on an individual basis. A lot of them host virtual office hours as well that students can leverage to, talk more with the faculty about their own idea, maybe about that faculty member's experience. So there is that coaching that does take place between faculty and student. When we get to the capstone project portion of the MMI program, which is more of a focus during the final third of the program, each student is assigned with their own capstone project advisor. So depending on what the subject matter of your capstone project is, whether it's a corporate innovation, an entrepreneurial venture, or social innovation, you'll be assigned a project advisor with domain experience who kind of understands what you're hoping to do with your project, and then they'll be there to guide you through the delivery and all the work that goes into the capstone project just to ensure that you're able to get the most value out of that experience. So there's very much a coaching mentorship relationship that takes place between the student and their capstone project advisor. When it comes to career support, we have the Smith Career Advancement Center, the CAC, which provides collective recruitment resources and events, networking events, different workshops that they host for a number of students, both not only within the MMI program, but more broadly across our portfolio programs here at Smith. But the Career Advancement Center also has a team of career coaches that work with students individually. So you could book a series of appointments with your career coach to first define where you want to move to with your career, what your goals, your aspirations are. You can put a detailed plan in place with that career coach, and then the career coach will actually help you execute on those goals and put you in the best position to kind of secure your professional goals and your professional dreams. So there's that coaching that takes place within the career support apparatus wrapped around the program as well. So lots of opportunity for coaching, lots of individual attention. Really everything that students need to be successful can be found through the relationships and through the coaches and through the faculty members that students interact with over the course of the program. That kind of brings me to my final point. Sometimes that coaching and mentorship takes place student to student. So we're always very conscious of recruiting the most diverse cohort of students possible. And I mean diverse in a very broad sense. So it's not just cultural diversity, and we always do have cultural diversity within the MMI program. It's an international program, so it's always a combination of domestic and international students. We normally have representation from anywhere between 15 and 20 countries in each intake for the MMI program. So there'd be a lot of diversity when it comes to cultural background, but also a lot of diversity in previous area of education. So we have students who come in from engineering, from business, from design, social sciences. Really, I think when we pulled the numbers for the current MMI cohort, I think there was over 35 unique undergraduate degrees represented within that class. So really every corner of the undergraduate market we pull from into this program. You don't need to be someone who has a business degree. You don't need to be someone who has an engineering degree to qualify for the MMI program. And because we are so diverse, I think that adds a lot of value to the program experience for all students. We also see that diversity when it comes to professional experience. So we have students who come into the program as entrepreneurs already, maybe serial entrepreneurs, some students who have already launched and managed multiple businesses, other students who come in corporate innovation and kind of broad representation on the corporate innovation side, as I mentioned previously, and students who come in from a social innovation perspective as well. So you bring a cohort of very diverse students together, but I would say a common thread across all of our students is that they're passionate. These programs do have a bias towards people who are motivated, who are all about self-development, professional development, people who are innovative, who want to change the world. That's the common thread, but that is where the commonality ends. After that, there's just so much different diversity of perspective that comes into the program. And with our group collaboration model and with the group projects that students work on, with all the networking opportunities that we create within the program, we really give students the opportunity to learn from each other over and above learning from us and the content that we deliver from an academic standpoint. So there is kind of that coaching, that relationship, that networking piece that takes place at the student perspective. And it's incredibly valuable because there will be no one else exactly like you within the program. If the program was comprised of 59 other people exactly like you probably wouldn't learn from those classmates. But because the program will be comprised of students who are very different from you, getting to learn about their experiences and their perspectives through collaborative work and conversation is a real value add to the program as well. So we take diversity seriously, and it's not just great to have diversity for diversity's sake, but it's really in how that drives the value that individual students do derive from the program experience and getting access to a network of commonly motivated, innovative thinkers, but those who come from very different professional, educational, cultural backgrounds. The MMIE program, as some of you might be aware, is delivered in partnership with the Smith School of Engineering. So that gives MMIE students really best of both worlds, access to some resources specifically offered to Smith School of Business students, and that would include the Career Advancement Center, the networking events that we do, the internal job board, the internal Smith Connect alumni network. So there's a lot of value to be derived from the Smith School of Business and the services that we have there. But there's also a tremendous amount of value to be derived for MMI students because of the partnership we have with the Smith School of Engineering. So I just listed some of those resources and centers on the screen here. Everything that you see here is optional. So we don't make students pursue any of these additional resources. An analogy that I often like to use with the program is that it is like a buffet. So there's more food on the table than you could fit onto a single plate. There are table stakes. So there are items that all students would need to complete, obviously showing up for class, doing all the work, meeting all the academic requirements. But over and above that, there's a lot of value to be derived from the non-mandatory aspects of the program. So this would be leveraging the Career Advancement Center. No one is going to make you book meetings with a career coach. No one is going to make you go on Smith Connect and identify alumni for you to connect with. Similarly, no one's going to make you leverage the resources that are available through the School of Engineering. So it's up to each individual student to kind of pick what they want to put on their plate and how they want to build out their experience within the program. And that really relates back to this idea of the program being customizable. So there's a lot of different value to derive across all the services that we provide. And we'll provide support. If students give us a sense of where they want to go, we can point them in the right direction and help them kind of build out a stack of resources and services that would be in service to their career goals. And that's, part of the job that we do here at Smith. But it's kind of exciting in the sense that students really get to pick their own adventure when it comes to these additional resources and services and value adds over the program experience. A couple of different other resources, institute centers affiliated with Smith Engineering that students have access to here as well. So it's often hard to quantify the results from a professional development standpoint in the MMIE program because we pitch such a wide tent and because we have students who stream in from so many different educational and professional backgrounds. It's really tough to kind of distill the success of the program in like an average salary. We might have students who use the program to develop a business plan, and then they go to execute that business plan, launch the business after they complete the program. And there's lots of examples of that. but they might not draw a salary as a founder for 5 or 6 years. So whereas more traditional MBA programs would have statistics around average salary, average time between graduation and employment, it doesn't really work like that for the MMIE program because we do have people who go on to launch their own businesses, and kind of salary and how you define success can get a little bit muddled when it comes to starting a venture. A student might start a venture, learn a lot from that experience. The venture might not ultimately fail, but through that experience, they learn more and they put themselves in a position to be successful with their next venture, for example. With all that being said, we do know that it's important for students to get a sense of ROI. And I think in this environment, students are really thinking about what return will I get in my multi-thousand-dollar investment in the program. So we do our best to pull some of these numbers. So over the last 5 or 6 years, we have about 140 successful startups that have been launched out of the MMI program. On the corporate innovation side, our students have received over 100 promotions. So students, come in, take the program, and they're able to position themselves as managers, as leaders, as change agents within their organizations, and oftentimes different promotions come as a result of that. And we have had students who have secured collectively $5 million in funding for their startups and ventures. These statistics wouldn't perfectly represent the picture. Some students graduate and we try to collect information from them. We don't hear from them again. Students will give us information and then they go on to accomplish something else in their career. So not all of our records are always fully updated. But this slide really, in summary, is just to show that MMI students do get results across the corporate innovation, entrepreneurship, startup landscape, as well as the social innovation landscape. But again, I would say that just taking this program and doing the bare minimum, going to class, completing your assignments, that will not automatically set you up for success. It's the students who are going to be on their toes, who are going to take advantage of everything that we have to provide, leverage the alumni network, leverage their career resources, leverage the partnerships that we have in place with different incubators and accelerators here in Canada, different sources of funding that we can make introductions to students to. It's those students who are really looking to squeeze as much value out of the program. Those are the ones that go on to be the most successful. So the days of just taking an MBA and having organizations lined up to hire you the day you graduate from an MBA, those days are really done. It's about students who are able to combine the education with their own grit, their own perseverance, and their own drive. It's those students who are ultimately successful. So another analogy, and for those of you who don't appreciate analogies, I apologize. I'm someone who likes to think an analogy, is that the program is very much like a gym. So by enrolling in the program, we give you access to the gym, an unlimited membership. You can go to the gym whenever you want. We give you access to the best state-of-the-art equipment, best facilities, the best trainers, the best staff. So there's everything there for you to be successful. But at the end of the day, it's up to the students to actually go to the gym and to do the work, to lift the weight, to work on the assignments, and to leverage everything that we do have to provide. So again, students can get results, but it's the students who are motivated and driven to get those results. Those are the ones that are successful. And of course, we're here to help any motivated student take full advantage of the program. And that's the value that we provide from the staff and faculty perspective and all the coaches that we provide students with access to as well. The program format. So the MMI program is really designed to be completed from anywhere in the world. We do have this unique hybrid delivery structure where the program is a combination of 3 intensive in-person on-site sessions that are delivered from Queen's main campus here in lovely Kingston, Ontario. So there's a 2-week session at the end of May, a week-long session in August, and then a final week-long session the following March. So for the next intake, we are going to be the May 2026 intake. So students will start the program May 1st. There'll be a virtual onboarding for the program. The first on-site session will be May 20th to 30th, I believe. The following on-site session will be August of 2026. The final session will be in March of 2027. And then that cohort will graduate in the spring of 2027, likely early June of 2027. So we always have one annual intake for the program, and the program always runs for 12 consecutive months. So the next intake, which will be the class of 2027, we'll start the program in May 2026, work on the program for 12 consecutive months, wrap the program up by end of April 2027, and then graduate in the spring of 2027. All these dates are available on the schedule on the program website. When it comes to looking at that schedule and contextualizing it, it's really a matter of ensuring that you do have the capacity, whether it's personal allowance or professional capacity leeway to be able to attend those three on-site sessions in person from main campus here in Kingston. There's no accommodation to be made. If you're an international student, you do need to travel to Canada to participate in those three on-site sessions, and same for domestic students. If you're located in Toronto, you still need to make the trip down to Kingston to participate in those on-site sessions in a full-time in-person capacity. So I just wanted to mention that. Between those three bootcamp on-site sessions, that's when the program becomes a lot more flexible. So between those three on-site sessions, we have virtual content that's delivered, some of it live. So there are live lectures and master classes and sessions that students would hop on a Zoom call and interact directly with their classmates and their faculty member or whoever is leading that discussion or workshop in a virtual capacity, but in a live synchronous way. We also do leverage a lot of asynchronous content. So students would log on to the Smith One platform and they would use that to watch videos or do readings or work on different activities offline on their own time. So that's where the flexibility comes in because we don't have regularly scheduled virtual classes between the three on-site sessions. Students can really work on the program in accordance with their own professional schedule and their own personal schedule. So the program is technically considered a full-time offering. For those of you applying for international study permits, the program is considered a full-time program, but in actuality, outside of the three on-site sessions, which are a full-time in-person commitment, everything else that we deliver in the program can be taken in conjunction with a full-time schedule. And that's, again, where the flexibility comes in the ability to customize the program. We have some students who work full-time and take the program over and above their full-time career. We have some students who work part-time while they're in the program. Other students might not work at all and really decide to take more time to really focus on their own innovation while they're in the program. So that there is a flexibility there to allow students to work up to full-time while they're in the program, but that's not a requirement to be working full-time in the program. And it's always a mix of students with different levels of professional and kind of work responsibility and allocation who work their way through the program. So something that I'm really excited to update about the MMIE program is that it will be included within the innovation suite starting next year. So the May 2026 intake for the program will be the first time that the MMIE is a member of the innovation suite. What does that mean? So the innovation suite has two programs, the MMIE as well as the Master of Digital Product Management, the MDPM program, which is one of the sister programs here at the Smith School of Business. The MDPM program has been around for about 3 years, so it's relatively younger. It's the newest program within our professional graduate portfolio, whereas the MMIE program has been around for about 10 years now. Academic leaders at the school have really looked at both of these programs and identified a common set of core courses, all tied to the idea of innovation that are relevant for both programs. So the Master of Digital Product Management program is for aspiring product managers, digital leaders, digital innovators, but innovation is a core concept of the MDPM program. And of course, innovation is a core concept of the MMIE program. So there's that reality, the fact that there are some courses that can be applied towards the completion of both programs that we've identified within the curriculums for both the MDPM and the MMIE. We also consistently get feedback from students and alumni of not just the MMIE program, of all programs, that students are always looking for opportunities to work with and collaborate with students from not only their own program, but from other programs within the portfolio as well. So we thought there was a cool opportunity here to partially integrate the MDPM and the MMIE program, but we're going to start light. So starting in May of 2026, that integration will only be through these core innovation courses that are listed on the slide here. We will launch those courses in person during the first on-site session in May of next year, and that session will be attended by MMIE students and Master of Digital Product Management students as well. So students from both of those programs will take the same core set of innovation courses together in person, and by doing so, have the ability to work with and collaborate and network with students from the sister program both under the banner of the Innovation Suite. So something that we're trying for the first time next year. We're really excited about it. Again, it's born out of feedback that we've received consistently from students and alumni. Once that first on-site session is completed and students have worked their way through those innovation core courses, they will then stream into their respective programs. So after the innovation core, MDPM will then pursue the separate MDPM curriculum, and MMIE students will proceed with the MMIE curriculum. So the integration is really only taking place with these core innovation courses that will be launched in person to students of both programs in May of next year during that first on-site session. The curriculum for the MMIE program has been slightly updated. Some courses have changed names. We've added a couple of new courses. Everything is updated on the program website. So if you are starting to seriously consider the MMIE program, make sure you take a look at the schedule just to make sure that the dates for the May 2026 intake align with your own professional and personal availability. And also take a look at the curriculum just to make sure that the courses still kind of align with your interests. We haven't made any major changes to the curriculum, but you just want to make sure that the way that we sequence the courses and the descriptions from those courses are ones that will drive value to you depending on what your individual career goals are. So that brings us to the application process. This is normally the part in the presentation when I would defer and hand it over to Beth McCallum, who's the dedicated application advisor. She normally guides the audience through the next couple of slides. But Beth, she's always recruiting. She's attending a recruitment fair, I believe, in Toronto for the next couple of days, so she wasn't able to support the webinar today. But I do have application experience, so I'd be happy to kind of guide everyone through the next couple of slides in place of Beth. So anyone who starts an application, and there might be some of you in the virtual audience who have already started your application, so you would know this, that you will immediately be connected with an application advisor, which in the context of MMIE is Beth McCallum. So Beth is the application advisor for all MMIE applications. What does an application advisor do? What does that role mean? Really, it's an application advisor's job to partner with applicants and to ensure that they put together the strongest case for candidacy. So it's Beth's job to ensure that every applicant puts themselves in the best, the most strong position to ultimately secure an offer of admission. So from that sense, you can think of Beth as like a mentor for your application or a consultant for your application. She's there to give you feedback on your various application elements and really there to make sure that you put the strongest profile forward that will allow you the best opportunity of securing admission. So that's really Beth's role at the end of the day. She's incredibly responsive. She's available through Zoom. You can have a Zoom call with her. Very responsive over email as well. So she's just the go-to resource when it comes to guiding you throughout the application process. The application process, there's a couple different ways to stream into an application. Some candidates would start with what we refer to as a preliminary assessment. So before you formally start your application, you can get a hold of Beth, send her an updated copy of your resume and an unofficial transcript, and she can conduct a free preliminary assessment. She can take a look at your professional educational credentials to give you a sense of whether you could qualify for the program. It's a great way to start the dialogue. Oftentimes, candidates will have that preliminary assessment. Beth will say everything looks great. We think you'd be a strong candidate for the program, and then they proceed with the application. The preliminary assessment, you don't need to do that first. So if you are interested in the program, you've read the admission requirements, you think that you'd be a good candidate, you can also just submit your online application. That's a form that you fill out directly on the program website. Once that form is submitted, Beth will review it. It'll ultimately land on her desk, and then she'll follow up with an applicant, usually within 2 or 3 business days of that form being submitted. If you're at the stage where you're thinking about an application, you might not be ready to send Beth your transcripts. Maybe you have some reservations or some hesitations about your grade or your grades during undergrad or your previous academic performance or your professional experience. Just send Beth an email. You can send her an email, introduce yourself, let her know that you're interested in potentially pursuing an application, chat a little bit about your previous academic performance and your professional experience. Oftentimes, Beth will schedule calls with people at this stage just to chat with them a little bit more about the program before they want to proceed. So you don't just have to be an applicant in order to interact with Beth. We do provide her email address here for anyone who's even considering the program. She can roll you through a preliminary assessment. She can guide you through the application process, or she can just have a conversation with you to help determine whether this program is the right fit. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Beth directly if you are interested. When it comes to the admission requirements for the program, these are listed on the program website, I think in a little bit more detail, but generally speaking, we have 3 requirements. Work experience. We generally like students to have a couple years of post-undergraduate work experience before they enter the program. We do have direct entry students, so sometimes we have students who did internships or co-op programs where they did, or maybe even just summer work experience where they did secure some work experience during the completion of their undergrad. In that case, they could qualify for the program from a work experience requirement, even if they don't have 2 years of post-undergraduate work experience. So it's worth kind of keeping that nuance in mind. We generally do require that students have completed an accredited degree from an accredited university in any discipline. So we're not just looking for business or engineer students, as I mentioned, or finance students, or students who have studied entrepreneurship before. We accept applications from students from any undergraduate degree. In some very rare cases, we do consider applicants without an undergraduate degree. There might be students with a diploma or a partial degree, or maybe students with so much work experience that the completion of an undergraduate degree doesn't become as relevant. We always do apply a holistic approach when it comes to considering applications. So again, if you're on the call now and you have 20 plus years of professional work experience, or maybe you did a diploma or you did 3 years of undergrad, there isn't a hard requirement for the completion of an undergraduate degree. The vast majority of applicants and students would have undergraduate degrees, but we do have the flexibility within our admissions considerations to consider some special cases, some instances where students don't have undergraduate degrees. So keep that in mind as well. And then we generally just look for students who are motivated, have an entrepreneurial interest, maybe students who have, you know, joined entrepreneur innovation clubs during their undergraduate degree, have maybe tried their own businesses or kind of worked in an innovation, corporate innovation capacity before. So some sort of demonstrated interest in innovation and entrepreneurship, we normally look for that. Over and above the admission requirements that are a little bit more cut and dry when it comes to kind of undergraduate degree work experience. Of course, there is some nuance depending on the specifics of each individual application. There's also a series of more qualitative, subjective qualities that we look for that are listed on the right-hand side of the screen. So strong communication skills, the ability to execute, passionate, driven individuals, people who thrive in a diverse team, collaborative environment, and effective and supportive team members. So those are kind of some of the additional qualities that we look for in our applicants over and above the admission requirements that are a little bit more straightforward. So that's it when it comes to the application process. Again, anyone who's interested in starting an application, send Beth an email, submit the online application form, and she's there to guide you throughout the process. We're currently accepting and processing applications for the May 2026 intake of the MMIE program. It's always better to apply earlier in the process as opposed to later. Seats are limited to a certain extent, so there's more seats available in the program now than there will be into next year. So if you're interested in the program, you think it's the right fit, you think that May 2026 is the right start date, please do get your application started. That is especially the case for international applicants. International applicants, once they do secure an offer of admission and enroll in the program, many of them will then have to secure international Canadian study permits, which is a process that can take anywhere from 2 or 3 weeks to months, depending on the country that you're applying for that study permit from. So if you're an international student, the sooner you can get your application completed, secure that offer of admission, that will just give you more time to then apply for and secure a study permit. So always better to start the process sooner rather than later. We operate under a rolling admissions model. We do have kind of two main rounds of applications, but we're constantly completing application and making admission decisions and delivering those admission decisions to students. We've already enrolled a number of students. I think there's already maybe 10 or 15 students enrolled in the May 2026 intake. Obviously, there'll be many more between now and the end of April when our application cycle will formally close. But if there's any takeaway from this webinar, if you are interested in applying, start that application as soon as possible would be my number one piece of advice. So with that out of the way, a couple of upcoming webinars that I wanted to mention. So Dr. Elspeth Murray is the academic director of the MMIE program. So she's the one who kind of sets the academic strategy, puts the faculty in place, puts the content in place, the program level learning outcomes, the skill set that students develop. That's really Elspeth's territory. So her and Catherine, Dr. Catherine Broman is Elspeth's counterpart in the Master of Digital Product Management program. So they're the two academic directors within the Innovation Suite. They're going to host a webinar next Tuesday on the topic of building to innovate and really having innovation at the core at the ideation phase. Organizations oftentimes think about innovation too late, whereas innovation should be core to really everything that they do, especially in this highly competitive digital technical environment. So Catherine and Elspeth are going to unpack that a little bit, talk about corporate innovation, innovation within an entrepreneurial context, innovation within a social context, and also talk about kind of the value of the MDPM and the MMIE programs and kind of the value of the innovation suite and how programs in the innovation suite really position students to lead innovation. So increasingly organizations are going to understand the value of innovation, but then they're going to need cross-disciplinary employees and leaders who are able to actually drive those innovations forward. So Catherine and Elspeth are going to unpack all of that during their webinar, Built to Innovate, over the lunch hour next Tuesday. Free to register for that webinar, and you can register directly on the MMIE program website, and that's open for registration now. In addition, a week after that Built to Innovate webinar that's going to be delivered between Catherine and Elspeth, Elspeth is going to have another webinar that's more focused specifically on the MMIE program, and she's going to explore the value of the MMIE program. So Elspeth used to be the Associate Dean of the Professional Graduate Portfolio Programs at Smith, and she launched a number of programs under her leadership when she was in that role, including the MMIE program. Innovation, entrepreneurship, and transformational leadership is Elspeth's area of research and study. So she's very passionate about the MMIE program, and she has seen how how the program has put students in position to succeed and accomplish their career goals. She's taught on the program since its inception. She was the founder of the program when it launched 10 years ago. She's someone who's very involved with the program. So she's going to really talk about all that experience, pull examples of how students have been able to successfully leverage the MMI program to accomplish their career goals, and then talk more generally about how the program is designed from an academic and practical skill development point to put students in the best position to be successful. So I think this webinar with Elspeth on the 21st of October, again over the lunch hour, is a great continuation of this more general session that I've hosted here today. So if you're interested in hearing directly from Elspeth and having her unpack the value of the program from her perspective, certainly do encourage you to register for that webinar as well. So that brings us to the end of the formal portion presentation of today's general information session webinar. Couple of ways to get in touch with us on the screen here. As I mentioned previously, you can connect directly with Beth. Her email address is on the screen, so please do jot that down if you are considering an application. Anyone who does fill out the online application form on the website will ultimately be connected with Beth automatically, but if you want to reach out to her directly, you can just send her an email. The QR code on the screen here will bring you to the virtual consultation form. So you scan this QR code, it will bring you to the portion of the MMI website where I think you just need to provide a name and an email address. And then a member of our recruitment team, whether it's Beth or one of our recruitment advisors, will reach out to you to schedule a virtual consultation. They'd be happy to chat about your profile within the context of the MMIE program, or they can also chat about the other programs that we have within our professional graduate portfolio. It's not uncommon for students or candidates to come in with an interest in one program, and then by interacting with our recruitment team, they decide that there's another program within our portfolio that they're better suited for, and then they pivot over to that other program. So all of our recruitment team, whether it's Beth or our team of recruitment advisors, they're very well versed in all the programs that we have to offer. So if you like the MMIE, but you think there might be other programs within the portfolio that might be a better fit, scheduling a virtual consultation and chatting with one of our recruitment advisors is probably a really good next step. And you can do that again by just scanning that QR code and filling out the form that it will link you to. Okay, so I don't see any questions in the queue here. I'll give everyone maybe another few moments to type in any questions that they would like to have addressed before we formally shut down this webinar. If you think of questions after the fact, reach out to Beth. You can also, connect with me on LinkedIn. Probably just search my name on LinkedIn and send me a message on LinkedIn is a great way to get connected with me. Something that I will mention is that we normally like to pull in alumni, one alum to support each of these general information session webinars to talk about their experience in the program and how they were able to kind of leverage the program in their careers and the value that they got out of the program experience. I had an alum lined up for today's webinar who was sick and wasn't able to attend. So in the follow-up from this email, we'll send you an email with a link to the virtual recording for this webinar. We'll also record a link to last month's general information session webinar. We do conduct these webinars on a monthly basis. Last month's September webinar did have an interview with Justin Andrews, who is a recent graduate of the MMIE program. So anyone who's interested in kind of hearing Justin's story and learning more about his experience in the program, we'll link you to the YouTube video for last month's general information session where I do conduct that interview with Justin. So we'll make sure that you get that in your inbox as well. Still don't see any questions in the queue here. We did want to wrap up at 12:45, and it's 12:45 on the dot, so the timing's great. In closing, I would just say don't self-select out of the process. If you are interested in the MMI program, if you liked any of what you heard here today, you might have some reservations about your undergraduate grades, or you might not think that you have enough experience to qualify for the program. Don't make that decision for yourself. At the very least, have that preliminary assessment conducted, connect with a member of our recruitment team, have that dialogue. If the MMIE program isn't the right fit, we can guide you towards other products within our portfolio. If you have your heart set on MMIE, but you're just not up to the admission requirements right now, our application team can also give you steps, actions that you can take to put yourself in a position to qualify for a future intake of the program. Going forward, the program will continue to have an annual intake every May. So if May 2026 doesn't work out, you have to, maybe you want to take a couple of years to work on your profile, take some additional courses or get some more work experience, and then qualify or apply for a future intake of the program. That's completely understandable as well. But don't make that decision for yourself. At least have the dialogue with our team and let us take a look at your profile and consider the specifics of your application. So with that, we'll go ahead and sign off for today. Thanks again for everyone for joining the webinar, especially those of you who stayed through to the very end. And thanks to Kit, who helps with the Zoom support. No one sees or hears from Kit, but she's kind of the unsung hero of these webinars, and she has to Zoom over and support another webinar for another program. So Kit's always very busy, so we do appreciate her taking the time. So thanks, Kit, and thanks again to the virtual audience, and we hope to hear from many of you going forward. Bye for now.